Hey guys, welcome to our second screencast. Today we're going to be simply talking about criminal defenses. Okay, so kind of just rewinding a little bit for class yesterday, the day before, you were able to watch screencast. Kind of talk about the 5 components of what a crime is. Okay, and so just quickly review those. Okay, a crime is an actional omission that intentionally violates criminal law, classified as a misdemeanor or violation, and is done without a legal justification or defense. Okay? So in order for someone to be found guilty of a crime in the United States of America, their actions must meet this 5-part definition. All right? And so we already talked about the action or omission. We already talked about mens rea. We already kind of talked about criminal law a little bit. We'll get more into that one a little bit more next week. And we talked about what a felony, misdemeanor, and violation is. Today, what we're going to spend time is talking about that last piece, without a legal justification or defense. Now, there are several different legal justifications or defenses that somebody could have that essentially allows them to commit a crime and not be held liable for it. All right. Now, you're going to use these defenses. These are going to be the ones that you guys are going to use for your assignment. I think it's just called criminal defenses. It's the second assignment that we have for first interval here in criminal justice class. Okay. Now, first legal defense that you can use, and we've already talked about this when we talked about mens rea, is if the element of intent is not present, you can't be held liable for a crime. Okay. And so use an example, if you're sitting on an airplane and you grab your neighbor's backpack by mistake and you walk off with it, can you be held or can you be charged with theft? The answer is no. Okay. Because the element of intent was not there. You did not want to steal that backpack. That's not what your goal was. You thought you were grabbing yours, but by mistake you grabbed the other person's. That shows that the element of intent is not there. It's simply an accident. You cannot be held liable for crime. Okay? And once again, guys, go forward in these. Feel free to, stop it, pause it, jot these things down to help you guys understand it. Okay. The second one is one you guys are probably most familiar with. Obviously, the self-defense. You are allowed to commit either assaults, batteries, and even in many cases murder through self-defense. Okay. Now here in Iowa, we have this thing. It's called stand your ground law. And what it says is that you may use a reasonable amount of force to defend yourself, others around you, or your property. Okay. If you fear that your life is in danger, you may certainly use stand your ground law to defend yourself. Now, am I saying if somebody walks on your lawn, are you able to go ahead and shoot them? And the answer is no. Okay. There must be a threat imminent. There must be a fear of harm before you actually use stand your ground. Okay. The third defense is called insanity. You're probably familiar with this one as well. The things that make insanity work is that essentially insanity doesn't allow an individual to know what is right versus what is wrong. Essentially, if someone is under an extreme mental state or emotional state, it can take away their ability to know what is right versus what is wrong, or to take away their ability to know what they're doing is wrong. Therefore, they wouldn't have any mens rea. Now, the insanity plea or the insanity defense doesn't always get you off from crimes. You may still be held liable. Your punishment may just be a little bit different. Okay. I have here a couple different things, just extra stuff about the insanity defense that you guys can read. Different rules, different tests that I just would use in help determining what is, insane versus what is not. Okay. Once again, you guys can just read these on your own. I'm not going to go through. All right. The fourth defense is called entrapment, and this one's kind of an interesting one. This is where you may be enticed or encouraged by a police officer to commit a crime. Okay, if you are encouraged by an officer to commit a crime, you can't be held criminally liable for it. And so, what we'll use here is an example. Um, an example would be, let's just say, in the case of a drug deal. Okay, now how entrapment works is the officer of the law must initiate the crime itself. Okay, oops. And so, if we're talking in the case of a drug deal here, and the officers are going to use undercover officers to try to catch the drug dealer in the act, um, they need to be very careful not to entrap that potential criminal. Okay. And so an example would be, let's just say, if an undercover officer went up to someone who he believed was a drug dealer and asked that drug dealer for crime or for drugs, and the drug dealer sold it to him, he could not then arrest him because the officer initiated that transaction. The officer initiated that crime himself. If the drug dealer goes up to the undercover officer and offers him drugs, and the officer buys it, then the officer can arrest him for dealing of drugs. Okay? Notice the difference was that who initiated, who started the crime. Okay? If an officer does it, that's called entrapment. If the criminal starts it, then it is not entrapment. Okay? You may use the intoxication defense, that if you are under the extreme state of drugs and or alcohol, that may have taken away your ability to know right from wrong. Therefore, what you did may not be able to be used in a court of law. Now, the key part of this one is who put you in an intoxicated state. If you actively and willingly took drugs or alcohol on your own, any actions that you committed will still be considered liable criminally. Okay. Whereas if somebody drugs you or puts you in an intoxicated state, you may be able to argue in court that you did not know the wrongfulness of your actions because somebody put you in that extreme state. Okay. The next one we got is the infancy defense. And this is kind of a blanket law that goes throughout the United States. It says that any person under the age of 7, they're incapable of producing and engaging a rational act. Therefore, their actions aren't necessarily held criminally because kids of that age may or may not know the difference between what is right versus what is wrong. Now, the key part to this is even though maybe somebody under the age of 7 commits a crime, the 7-year-old may not be held criminally. The person who is in charge, either a parent or guardian, could be held criminally liable. For example, if a 6-year-old stole a car and went joyriding and hit somebody else and killed somebody else, the parent or guardian could be held criminally liable for that criminal murder. All right. And then the last type that I got here for us today is called duress and consent. Can also kind of be called extortion, but we're going to get to that one a little bit later when we get to our definitions of crimes next week. This is where if somebody forces you to commit a crime, you can argue that in court and say that you didn't have a choice. If somebody held a gun to you and said, "Go rob that bank," or "We're going to kill you or your family," that would be an example of duress and consent. Once again, you would have to prove this in court, but if somebody forces you to commit a crime, you cannot be held criminally liable. Okay? So I think that's all I have for the different defenses today. Use these defenses for your worksheet itself. If you have any questions or you need clarification on some of these, please feel free to either shoot me an email, shoot me a remind text, come to my office hours. We will certainly be talking about these during our regular class time on Tuesday next week. But if you want to jump ahead, feel free to do so. Okay? All right. You guys have a great day.